Today we'll embark on my boxing journey of how I went from this to this. But first, let me explain how I got into boxing. As a kid, I was always fat. I didn't really exercise much. However, I did play rugby, so I was no stranger to contact sport. Eventually, I'd fall in love with fitness. First it was cycling, then gym. I was so obsessed until later down the line, I got distracted, discovering the life of partying, drinking, and general teenage degeneracy. After one of these nights out, my mates had come round, and in the morning we found a pair of boxing gloves, and done what any group of lads would have done, and had some one-handed spars. We were going 100% in 10-ounce gloves.
Good up.
Woo! No, we got.
Our form was absolutely horrible, however it lit a fire in me. I didn't take action for a while due to procrastination and fear. Honestly, if you're considering boxing or any martial arts, just show up, command your legs to the gym, and you'll probably have a pleasant surprise. It's not as bad as you think, and these gyms will be quite welcoming as well. Anyway, one day, this all changed when I watched the Rocky films. I absolutely loved them, and they gave me the motivation to take action. And the first step I took was to buy some second-hand gloves on eBay for about £12, which I still use to this day.
Pressure,
Nevertheless,
boys.
I started sparring my friends everywhere.
Oh, one little softy to the right. Oh, go on.
Including my school. It's hard to pinpoint exactly where I started getting serious about boxing, but it was sometime after these spars that I joined 2 boxing clubs and started training 5 to 6 days a week. I was absolutely obsessed, but eventually this honeymoon phase of intense motivation would run out, and I had my first proper spar, and to be honest, I got destroyed, and the kid was going easy on me, which was very demotivating and the nail on the coffin. Everyone will experience some setbacks on their boxing journey, or when pursuing anything difficult, but honestly, I just recommend sticking with it and showing up, because you may not realise but you're improving, especially when you push past these setbacks. This first few months of boxing, I learnt the fundamentals, and boxing is like any skill. Once you've learnt it, you don't unlearn it. You'll always know how to box. That's why if you're considering it, or even thinking about it, I suggest just going for it and learning how to fight, because once you can fight, you'll be confident that you'll be able to handle yourself better than if you've had no previous fight experience. So after quitting, I started smashing the gym and bulked up massively. I still sparred my mates a lot when going to the gym and went boxing every now and then, but I was very inconsistent and not taking it seriously until around 4 months ago. I made a video training like Mike Tyson, and at the end of the session, someone who had been boxing 2 weeks said they were going to fight, and this made me sign up for the fight, as after a certain point there's going to be no perfect time to fight. I'd been training that long inconsistently, and now I had left school, I wanted to give myself no choice but to be disciplined and focused on boxing, and it worked. I was training very hard and focused on one goal, beating my opponent. My diet was the best it's ever been, not eating bread and minimising carbs. I was attending all the training sessions. I also watched my first ever live fights at the Misfits Prime card, and was honestly such an experience, which I'd definitely love to be on sometime in the future. So if anyone from Misfits is watching this and you need a fighter, you know who to call. If you haven't watched my first fight, here's a little recap. My original opponent didn't show up on the night, so I had to fight a more experienced fighter who had had 4 previous fights, and I had only been training for 3 rounds, but the fight was 4 rounds, so you can imagine the last 2 rounds were hell. Nevertheless, I took home the first round but lost the fight, but I learned so much more from this fight than I would have with an easier opponent, and the video's on 60k views, so really it's an L turned W. One thing my opponent suggested I do to help my stamina was hill sprints. He said this helped him build his stamina a lot, so I've been doing hill sprints ever since. I've noticed recently I've experienced the most growth as I'm putting myself out there more, sparring more, and generally showing up to training more. A couple weeks after the fight, I met an ex-pro boxer and he showed me a different style of boxing to add to my arsenal, the Romanian boxing style. I also sparred a few very experienced boxers whilst I was there, which gave me no choice but to adapt and learn to the new high guard style he had taught me, to block a majority of these punches and minimise punishment, which I lacked on my first fight. I was defending defending and dodging, but I was only using my right hand to defend. So the new high guard style has helped me out a lot. And in general, everything he taught me has improved my boxing significantly. The main tip was to relax in the ring and watch everything that is coming at you whilst breathing through your nose. I also learnt the basics of southpaw and put my skills to the test a few weeks later, training 24 hours as the southpaw champ, Manny Pacquiao. Furthermore, I implemented everything I learnt into my training sessions. I was also training for a white collar boxing event, but unfortunately I hadn't sold enough tickets, so I couldn't fight. But I was attending the training anyway. At these white collar sessions, there was a really experienced boxer that was the best there and really hard to spar. I was frustrated sparring him week after week, but now I look back at it, his technique has really relayed back to me. I've stole his technique like an artist subconsciously, picking up little tricks such as pushing their head down and putting your weight on them tires your opponent. I've even copied his stance and flair. So that's my biggest takeaway from my boxing journey. Sparring more experienced boxers in as many different styles as you can and still what works for them. Relax in the ring and watch everything that's coming at you. Do all this and your progress will be insane, and you'll be so much harder to fight with all these styles in your arsenal.